Having the 1985 football team back to recognize them out on the field, national championship team. It's a team that went 11-1, beat Penn State in the Orange Bowl, and a lot of all-time Sooner greats were part of that team. So it'd be really great to have people like the Boz and Keith Jackson and Jamel Holloway, Tony Casillas, Kevin Murphy, and obviously several more, just to kind of name a few. And really going to be cool to have them back in town. Again, one of the all-time great teams here, 40th anniversary this weekend. Got Kent State coming in, excited to get our guys back out on the field. I said this to y'all last Thursday. We had a fantastic bye weekend. Just again, the focus, the energy, the detail. There's just a lot of intentionality. We spent a lot more time on a bye week against each other, and also just working on fundamentals, the positions and scheme-specific fundamentals. Obviously, issues that have maybe caused us some problems through the first 4 games, but really excited about the buy-in of this football team. Up to this point, we don't have anyone that's satisfied or that's hard to coach. This is a team that is hungry and has the humility to do the things that are necessary to continue to improve and develop, because we're not anywhere close to where we want to be or we need to be or going to have to be here to manage the challenges that are in front of us moving forward. But excited about kind of closing that first chapter of the season and getting into the next 5 games. And for us, this week and the bye week was about just how much can we improve. It's a race against the clock. We don't have unlimited reps or opportunities to develop and practice, go against each other, things of that nature. We don't have a day to waste. And like I said, I just have a great appreciation for the buy-in with both the coaches and the players. There was nothing casual about the bye week. A lot of strain, a lot of work. And for the most part, we got a good, healthy team, going into this week. And every week you learn more and more about your team. And so I don't take it for granted. Again, for me, man, yesterday was just about having an amazing, Monday practice, our best Monday practice of the year. And same thing about today, going into Tuesday practice. I don't want our players or coaches to get bored with the process and our structures and how we do things, at a really, really high level. And but as I said before, the bye week was great. Last week was great. Got a chance to go out and recruit in the state. Saw 3 different games. Saw a bunch of excellent football being played. And a lot of great football players as well. And it was just affirmation for me, and something I've talked about since I took this job, that, within arm's reach, you can win a national championship, team at Oklahoma. And, starting here within this state, the foundation of this locker room will be and needs to be, players from the state of Oklahoma and within arm's reach of this campus. So that was exciting, and then got a chance, like y'all, got a chance to watch a bunch of football. And certainly in our conference there were 4 games that came down to the last drive of the game, and being a one-possession league, it was just affirmation, the smallest things always have the biggest consequences, and everything matters. Those plays in the first quarter are going to make a difference in the fourth quarter. And but situational football, the physicality, execution, things of that nature. Got a chance to watch a bunch of really good teams across the country, and again, whether it was Oregon and Penn State, again a top 10 matchup that goes to overtime, comes down to the last, drive of the game, last play of the game to decide the game. But it was just affirmation for us, if we're willing to continue to put the work in, stay hungry, driven, ambitious, keep our head down, don't get distracted, that, man, we can play with anybody in the country. Not a team that we can't beat. And I said this too, there's also not a team that's not capable of beating us if we don't show up and do, what winning requires. So really excited. Our team, like I said, is excited to attack this next phase of our season and the challenges that are in front of us. Really excited about seeing Mike Hawkins back out there. And we talked a lot about him on last Thursday, so I don't want to be real redundant, but he had a good bye week, had an excellent fall camp. And the team believes in him, and he's a guy that believes in himself. He's in a much different place than he was a year ago, just as far as his mental capacity as a true freshman. A lot of growth happens for all players going into year one to year two. He's put a lot of work in, as I've said. I love his level of consistency when it comes to his body of work. And then he's got great self-awareness too. A lot of guys, they have their head in the sand when it comes to self-awareness, and it stunts their growth. Mike's a guy that has great self-awareness, and to me has a growth mindset. And so excited to see some other guys. Hopefully they'll get back out there as well, and Eli and Giovanni Gibson, and just a little bit healthier team overall. We had some guys banged up on the offensive line that are a little healthier now as well, and you'll be able to see our Mason, right away, from the opening kick. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
We'll start with Jenny on the far right and go down the line.
Brent, the quarterback position in this era of college football, with so many players being transient, it seems like that position is even more so. Guys get a taste of starting and they want to start no matter what. You were able to keep Michael here even when John transferred. What's the challenge of building depth and having multiple guys at that position that could be inserted and play if needed?
Yeah, I think it goes without saying the money that's involved, opportunity to pick up and go somewhere and be somebody's starter so you can recruit to that. That's a real challenge. And, it's a challenge for everybody, in the country. And so, hopefully guys are looking, you want to recruit young guys like Mike that understand, that's a position like every position, but particularly that position, it's a developmental position. And you go somewhere, you're attached to and attracted to all of it, the development piece, and growing and learning and discovering on the field, off the field, and again, being attached to a locker room at a place like Oklahoma and you're a quarterback, it's a big deal, So there's hopefully you recruit guys that have a level of patience, but, the good thing is that because of the free agent model that we have, you can always, get better quickly at all positions, but that position as well. But we know that the best teams typically will have, at that position a little more continuity, would serve it, well for the long haul.
Yeah, Brent, a lot of people are mentioning Ben as a potential head coach at some point. He's still a young guy. Modern age of college football, the things you're just talking about and other things.
Yeah.
Is it more difficult or is it easier for a young guy to become a first-time head coach? All the different things going on, but also you got a lot more support personnel doing things to supplement that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's easier to be a head coach at a young age, if ADs are more willing to hire. I don't know what the test of time really says, that what the story is, but he'll certainly be somebody that has great opportunity in the future. And for me, I've always said, and I tell it to my my colleagues, just as they look at opportunities to grow and elevate in the profession, is when you have what you value, don't screw it up. And the only thing I would say, when you find somewhere that has the resources and the opportunity to win at the highest level year in and year out, there's a lot of fulfillment in that, being successful, winning, being able to recruit great players, lack for nothing when it comes to resources. So you get to show up every day in a profession that's about winning and being successful, that you have a fighting chance in a profession that's really hard to be successful. And I would just, I've always said, man, wait till the job that comes up that you absolutely love, that's an easy, passionate sell for you. And that's just me, though. And I've always, when approached, I've given that advice, when asked for. But everybody's a little bit different in the things that they desire, and some people just want to be a head coach no matter what, and that's cool too. Our building's full of guys that are going to be great future head coaches, but they don't have a lot of opportunity. He's a winner. Everything that I've bragged on him in the past, he's got maturity beyond his years, and he's got a great toughness to him. He's got very relational, and he's passionate about winning.
Yeah, Brent, as you guys have been getting Mike ready to step in here, how much has it helped to have a guy in John Kuzieski that has worked with Ben, knows what he wants, and knows his way around quarterbacks?
Yeah, it's a tremendous advantage. John's very talented, excellent teacher, knows what he wants. Very similar to Ben in many ways, and then other ways they're just a little bit different. But tremendous mentor, teacher, coach, incredibly consistent in his approach to the game, and I love to hear the coaching and the development on play to play to play to play throughout rep after rep after rep during the course of practice. It's constant feedback, encouragement, affirmation, correction. They definitely know what they're doing. John is fantastic, understands certainly their system, and he knows how to get guys better. That's what I love, and but he's full of energy and really passionate about coaching quarterbacks.
Brent, piggybacking off of that, just how helpful has John Mateer been with Mike? I know he talked about how special their relationship's been last night, and then Ben talked about how cool it's been watching them from afar, just sort of develop a relationship.
When you have the right people, to me, it's invaluable. So John and his approach, that's very well received, and then Mike and his humility to learn from a guy that's within a couple of years of age, saying, hey man, I want to do some things like you do. There's a lot that you can teach me. And a lot of young guys are too cool for school and don't want to they don't want to admit that or accept that, but Mike's been a sponge, and John's got a great approach. He's not trying to teach anybody, but he certainly can and does. And then again, everybody's got to be themselves too. So, but you apply it where it's applicable, and but it's really cool to see that relationship. Mike's come a long way. Mike would be the first one to tell you that maybe a year ago, he was very insulated when it comes to learning from people around him, and but just several months later, things have completely changed too. And I do think that the people in the room matter as well.
Yeah, Brent, kind of a broad question for you. You mentioned watching games this past weekend, and you've talked a lot about the SEC being a one possession league. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like there's maybe more parity across the sport right now because of things like the transfer portal and NIL? Do you feel like it's more of a level playing field?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just you'd have to be blind not to see that, and I think it's exciting. I love it. I love college football. I love college athletics. Just the innocence of it. I think there's more of an innocence to it now, as well. And I'm not at an underdog school, but I like underdogs, and I like everybody to have a chance. And but I love what you saw again, another week of it, and it'll be complete and total chaos by the end of the year, I'm sure.
Does that make your job as a head coach, more difficult when it's every single week?
I don't know. If it's difficult for me, then it's difficult for them, and it's difficult for them. So that's how I look at it. Nobody wants to hear my pity party, and I don't have one. I love to compete, and as long as everybody's going by the same rules, I don't care what the rules are. And so that's it's a lot of fun. The challenge of the challenges of the environment that we're in right now. I think it's a lot of fun. And like I said, if it was one-sided and my problems were a lot more than somebody else's, then I wouldn't feel that way. But it is. There's more equity now than ever.
Second row, far right, Ryan Avery. Yeah, Brent, you talked a couple weeks ago after the Michigan game about recruiting and how that dynamic maybe was different in that environment. I wanted to ask you this season with Jim Nagy and his staff as part of things, how has recruiting on home weekends changed at all for you, and how has that allowed you to shift maybe some things you've done in the past?
I mean, it's very demanding, just like it always has been. You got recruits coming to your hotel on Friday night and having dinner with you while you're really focused on 3rd and 3, and walking through with your players and watching film and things like that. Saturday you get over here and we've been meeting with them. I meet with several players one-on-one prior to the game, and I meet with them out on the field prior to the game, and then I meet with them after the game, and then I meet with them on Sunday after the game. And so none of those things have changed. If you want to do a good job, I could be lazy and say, hey, man, just give me whoever you want. But if I'm a recruit and if I'm a parent, then I want to know who the coaches are. If I'm a recruit and I'm a parent, I want to know who's going to mentor and love on and encourage my son in some of the hardest, darkest moments of his young life. Who's going to hold him accountable when we can't be there. If I'm a parent, that's what I want. And I'm passionate about that. So I would be negligent and lazy both if I was like, they'll handle it. That's what they pay you for. That's one way to look at it. But, man, it's a team. We're trying to be more efficient than we've ever been, a little more focused than we've ever been. But it takes what it takes. And there's a human element. There's a relationship element. And there needs to be a connection element that goes beyond the recruiting staff. And, we've always had a recruiting staff that have helped manage game day weekends and official visit weekends. And so it still takes all of that, too. What you do have is you have, more people that have evaluated. And again, there's some efficiency things. And then there is a piece of contract negotiations and the money and the budget and all that. That's you didn't have to deal with that. Well, I did the first 3 years. I did have to deal with that myself and Curtis Lofton, and and that's a lot. That's a lot because nobody wants to talk about money. And because whatever number you give, it's never good enough. And I don't mean that. I just mean it's like, you know what I mean. Whether you're dealing with your players or you're dealing with families, and it's really been. I've learned a lot about people, and a lot of it's been just affirmation. Man, they're about the right stuff, and the money should matter. Money should matter, but there's so much more than just that. And, I've been fortunate enough to deal with so many people, and many of our current players in our locker room now that are supported with amazing families that have big picture, long-term value, the things that are most important to them align with things that are important to us as a program as we, develop these young men and take the baton from these families and try to, do a great job over-deliver when it comes to education and mentorship and developing lifelong relationships and winning and developing, as players too. So I know that was a little bit long-winded, but I think it's very appropriate when it comes to making sure we have the right lens on the new environment. Our coaches are they're with recruits to past midnight on a Saturday night after a big win, and they're back with them either in church or at breakfast early in the morning and sending them off, walking them to their car, before they go, fly home or drive home and things of that nature. So it's as demanding as it's ever been. Our staff is relentless and passionate about recruiting, and we've got a tremendous team that I think brings credibility. Our scouting department and our front office, I think they've got tremendous credibility. One more layer of that to be attached to at the University of Oklahoma. They've enhanced our brand.
Yeah, Brent, Ben was up here talking about how exciting it's been watching Giovanni really this last month of his rehab process. But from your perspective, what's it been like seeing him work his way back from that injury after 5 months? And what do you feel like he can bring to that receiving corps? Yeah,
just has a great maturity and toughness about him. He's been super consistent when it comes to the rehab, and that can be there are a lot of emotional challenges that a lot of young people go through, and I'm sure he'd be the first one to admit. I don't want to speak for him, because I'm always trying to be on the positive side of it with him, and he's been fantastic. He's received that well. I haven't seen anything other than that, but I'm sure if you gave him true serum, he'd say, man, I had some tough days and tough moments along the way, and where he couldn't see, this week or last week, where he is, where it gets pretty cloudy. And I know Kendall Dolby, he went through a very similar injury and just a lot of, tough moments. And he's still working his way back and doing great. But I've been really proud of Giovanni, just again for his consistency. He's attacked the rehab, over the last several months, and he hadn't flinched. He's just refused to flinch. He stayed right on schedule, and probably, if the doctors were to tell you, he's slightly ahead of the schedule. He hasn't had any setbacks along the way, and it's just been fun to watch him get back out there with the guys and watch his teammates really just encourage him and pull for him and celebrate some of the successes he's had the last few weeks, just being back out there. That's a very innocent space that I just have a great, appreciation for.
Third row, please. So if I'm doing my math right, you were 15 when Oklahoma won that national championship.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in Kansas. So you're in this part of the country. You're watching the Sooners, and you're playing linebacker freshman high school, I think. What is that kid?
I mean, those good old days, weren't they? Man, I had no problems.
Right. But what is if you can go back? What is that kid, being a linebacker, being in high school, being young and impressionable? What did that kid think of Brian Bosworth?
Well, I didn't know as much about him then, but my first college game was Oklahoma-Nebraska in Lincoln. And just a couple of years later, and I got to sit right behind Gary Gibbs was warming the linebackers up here, and that was our seats. And I'm like, that dude's a badass. I want to be like him. I didn't know everything about him, and then the Land of Boz came out, and so he had the poster and the book, and then I changed to 44, and I've told Brian the same story, but that was my first impression. And then somewhere along the way, I fell in love with Kansas State, and then I got to hate Nebraska because they just beat Kansas State's brains in for decades, but when I had the opportunity a few years, later, to come work at the University of Oklahoma, it was out of respect. As sad and hard as that was to leave home, I really wanted to learn and grow. And Coach Stoops was coming, and he was a very close mentor of mine. Our relationship started my junior year in high school with Coach Stoops, and I knew I wasn't ready to be a defensive coordinator yet. I just wanted to learn. And I wanted to go to Oklahoma. I was like, man, I want to come to a University of Oklahoma, because I thought, I can coach, and surely anybody can coach at Oklahoma. And that's what I thought, because of all the great players and the resources, and that was my, young, immature self and line of thinking. But yeah, I've always had great respect. I was very attracted to, the aura of Brian Bosworth, and just how passionate he was about being a great player. And he's one of the best, to ever do it. And despite all the, the other stuff, man, he took advantage, and created NIL when there wasn't NIL, and branded himself and all of those cool things, and has had a really long career in, being very successful, because he's one of the most smartest people I've ever been around. But I love his leadership style when he speaks to our guys. Everything is so easy for him. It's always just been affirmation how much he knows about the game and people and the psyche. He's as good as that, at that as anything. And through the years of just, I'm not best friends with him, but I feel like he's a friend and somebody that I trust and somebody I look up to. But it's funny how some of those relationships kind of start from afar, as you point well taken. And I was just I wasn't shaving yet, wasn't driving yet, and I'm falling in love with the idea of being that guy someday. So really cool. He inspired a lot of people, and certainly that team. And now that I've spent 18 years at the University of Oklahoma. My family has. Our life has been enriched through so many relationships and people, and also from a career standpoint, man, I spent a long time at a program that again stands out in front in college football history, and so incredibly fortunate and thankful for Brian and all these guys that are coming back. The guys that I mentioned, I've been around several times through the years, and just these guys are winners, and just more affirmation too. Watching Coach Switzer and his relationships with these players, man, it's just so much to be admired and respected. They love him like a dad. He was a father figure for them. It changed their lives. They'd be the first one. I mean, you talk about influence and impact. Man, he was. Coach Switzer's long been a pioneer in this profession, and so it's going to be cool to have that team back, along with Brian. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brent, just following up on that, what has Coach Switzer meant to you over the years, especially now that you've been back as head coach?
Yeah, I wish he was. He used to come out to practice all the time, and he'd come by, and man, as everybody here knows, he can really take you back to some cool moments in time. We had him as our keynote speaker to our coaches clinic the year before last, and he was fantastic. But man, what he has stood for, so humble. He's such a humble guy for the success that he's had in college football history. To see him and Coach Stoops when they're around each other, Coach Switzer's a little, he's a little more. Coach Stoops is a little more reserved. Coach Switzer's he's out kind of leading the charge, and it's an absolute blast. We have a function prior to during fall camp. Where we have all the coaches there and a lot of people here in the community that support Oklahoma football, and Coach Switzer's always there, Coach Stoops is always there. And again, the stories and just the energy, the passion, the connection, the familiarity, the comfort that you have. Special, Coach Switzer special in every way. You feel like you've known him, your whole life. And, one of the best to ever do it, man. We're fortunate to be able to experience, what he's all about, in this day and age. Mm-hmm.
Brent, you're in the top four of a lot of defenses through 4 games, a lot of defensive stats in 4 games. I don't know, this week what kind of test you're going to get, but following that, you're going to get tested even better or more going in. How confident are you in your defense at this point that you're going to lead all those challenges?
Yeah, I'm confident in the people I work with every day. That's what I'm confident in. And as I've said, not just because you have a talented roster doesn't mean they're going to be, known as a great unit. There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot for us. We've done well. We've passed a very small test up to this point in time, and the true test and the identity will be defined, when the season's completed. And that's the challenge for this team. Are they going to stay, focused, dialed in? Are they going to stay, are they going to have the willingness to continue to put the work in and stay humble and, again, have a great awareness, things of that nature. So it's been good. It's been good. This is a group of guys, as I've said, man, they let you push them to the limit. They receive coaching very well. They've got really good self-awareness. They show up every day like something's on the line. Passionate. You watch the interaction with each other. There's a real chemistry and a love, trust, and respect that the really good units got to have. And so that's the test, sitting in front of us. The challenge is going to only enhance as far as the X's and O's, the players, what's on both sides of the ball. It's the teams. It's, if we're successful in defense, our offense is putting pressure on people, to make people a little more predictable. If the offense is punting every series, that puts a little more pressure. That bleeds over into every area of your team. And it'll be hard to be elite if that were the case. So, again, complementary football is something, again, from a team efficiency, and we have plenty of areas where we're weak or not as good as what we want to be or what we hope to be or what we're trying to be. But our overall team efficiency is pretty good. And, again, through 4 games, offense, defense, and special teams. So, but I'm excited about the group of the people that I'm working with. As I said, we got leaders, guys, again, that are highly invested. They're invested in winning and what winning requires. And so that makes it a lot of fun for me. You can still be good if they weren't as passionate or if they weren't as humble. It just make it harder and not as much fun to deal with day in and day out. But I don't take any of it for granted. I know if I don't, they won't. It starts and begins and ends with me and the coaching staff. And I've appreciated our coaches. I had a good message for them yesterday morning as we began our week about how we can improve. Instead of giving it lip service, what's that mean? What does it look like? It means, man, we freaking take the field. When it's time for the unit to run out, we take the field. In no way, shape, or form is it casual. Man, we're running from the sideline to where the ball is, with urgency, with purpose, with intensity, with focus, with communication. And it starts with us, so what we're willing to tolerate from the time they break the huddle to run onto the field. And that's both sides of the ball. That's the kicking game. And so, that's that's how you improve. You don't improve just because you're there. Hey, let's do a little harder. Let's work a little harder today. That doesn't go anywhere. That's spinning your tires in the mud. It's, you got to be real intentional with the basics. If you go out there in a casual way, you jog out, a couple guys are walking out, and you expect that to have an elite performance, an elite snap, or an elite series, you're fooling yourself. So, just try to peel it back to some of the basics, man. We start the fight. That's what it needs to look like this week when we're going good against good, or, offense, defense, we're going against the scouts. When you should start the fight. And I don't mean literally fighting. You should start the fight, man, attack. And so just try to paint the right type of perspective. And the coaches need to have passion in those moments, intensity and details in those moments. And if coaches have 2 hands on the wheel, the players will. Coaches got 1 hand on the wheel and think it's all about them and they don't need anybody to lead them, then, we're asking for it. So, to answer your question, again, another long-winded response, but, man, there's a lot of layers to it. And it's easier said than done. And so we've been – tried to be very, very, I thought we came out and had a really good practice. The scouts, they got to fight back. They got to, show up with an idea of, I'm going to get better. And, I'm going to blister this dude I'm lining up against every day. And we'll make him do the play again. And you should take pride in that. Next thing you know, you're not down on the scout team anymore. That's how it works. You want to be a lifelonger? Go in here, go through the motions and brother-in-law. And let me get after you for, going through the motions. And you're going to be down here for your whole career. And so that's the challenge to that group of guys, too. If we're going to grow and improve and develop, man, we've got to continue to get those guys better, too. And it needs to be a literal, again, everybody needs to take the fight to one another.
Time for a couple more. Second row, Davis.
Yeah, Brent. We talked with Grayson last week about his journey getting here. What was that process like, bringing Grayson in, and
How have you seen him progress into the punter he is now?
Okay, great.
Grayson Miller.
Oh, Grayson Miller. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's. I'm only laughing because I would never have guessed, and because he'll be the first to tell you that in fall camp when we were competing, he was inconsistent, and he'd have a couple that he just bombed, and he'd have a couple that it looked like me punting, and not a pretty sight, and we would literally kind of joke with him about that, and Coach Deacon's coaching him and correcting him, and about this drop and timing and keeping his head down and things like that, and his footwork. But he was incredibly inconsistent, and so when it happened with Jacob Ulrich, where he had a hamstring strain, I was just another opportunity just to kind of laugh. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Is this happening again? We had the appendicitis, prior to the Auburn game last year, and then we had another appendicitis this fall, and right on time. And then he's been so good. And I hate saying it. I don't like bragging on guys because I'm afraid what's going to happen. But his spirit has been. You got that smile. You guys saw a smile. That's like he's from the beginning to the end of the kick. That's what he's had, that smile, and he's been fantastic. He's helped us, control field position in a couple of really tight games against good people where the field position we really needed that, and he has over-delivered in every way. So really proud of him. Thankful for him. Thankful for injury. Should I be thankful for injury? I'm not thankful for injury. But he was ready for his opportunity, and that was been my message to the team. Is he got beat out soundly, but he refused to quit. He refused to let that define him, and he continued to keep his head down and work. And when he had his opportunity, man, he showed up and just crushed it, and has crushed it. So great lesson for guys to stay engaged, continue to believe in yourself, even when it's easy for doubt to creep in, and be ready, man. The team's counting on you to be ready. If you're traveling to that hotel, if you're getting on that bus, if you're out on that field in those pads, the team is counting on you. And so be ready. Be a great teammate, man. Your butt's ready to go emotionally and physically. So he's been great.
Brent, to go back to the defense a little bit, I know that the takeaways haven't been there through the first 4 weeks, but you guys have been good in a lot of other areas, third downs, sacks. When you're good in these other areas, does it give you more margin of error where you're not as reliant on those takeaways?
So far it has, and but I don't believe that's gonna I don't call it luck's not the right word, but the stove is hot, and we need to. And again, we're going to continue to emphasize turnovers. Started yesterday's team meeting with a turnover presentation. Coach Valai did a great job teaching the offense what the defense is being taught. A lot of great video examples, both in college and the NFL, what it looks like and how we teach it, what our drills look like. And we start practice every day with a really cool turnover circuit that it'll pay dividends. We got to do a better job of being more purposeful in practice. All those good reps, and I don't want to be that team that's over there trying to rip at the ball and nobody's tackling the ball carrier either. That's bad football. And but at the same time, man, we need to create turnovers. Notre Dame was plus 18 last year, played in the national championship. Ohio State was plus 3. And around 50th, 60th in the country on the turnover margin. We opened up the team meeting with the playoff teams and what the explosive play count was for them, where they ranked in college football. Because we talk a lot about turnovers, explosive plays, and tackling. Nothing impacts a game, like those three particular areas, and you can really quantify those things. And day to day and week to week and things of that nature. But out of the playoff teams, there was a mixed bag, when it comes to the turnover margin. I'm not trying to justify not being ranked high, not creating any turnovers, yet being the worst in college football. I'm not trying to justify that at all. But I also wanted the guys to know, man, we got some work to do. You want to be one of those teams. You can't be last in the country. I didn't read one last ranking out of the teams that were in the playoffs. But it was a mixed bag, people in the 50, 60, even 70 range. But the national champions were, I think Notre Dame was around 70-something in creating explosive plays on offense, so not great, but they were excellent when it come to getting the ball back. And I think they might have been number 1 in the country at plus 18. And so we got to quit giving the ball back. 6 turnovers, on offense. Got to quit giving it back on offense, and we got to go get it, on defense. And so, hopefully we can get that turned around sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm.
Last one, Myron. Yeah, you talk about Javonte Gibson. He's got some rust. I'm sure he'll have to work through. What can he bring your receiving core that maybe is something you don't have?
I don't think that's fair to compare it, Myron, to what we don't have, because I love our group of receivers, but I do think it's a big body guy that is what I saw him in live work over several weeks, even months during the winter time, is a guy that can make a lot of competitive plays in really tight coverage. He's got a tremendous catch rate. He's very strong hands. He's got the innate ability to bring the ball all the way in and finish the play with strength at the top of the route, and tremendous body control, run after the catch. He can break tackles. He's always open. He's one of those guys. And and to have another one of another playmaker added to the group of guys, I think we're one of maybe 3 teams in college football that have 4 receivers. Maybe they're averaging over 50 yards a game, something like that. That's pretty good, to be able to add another guy that gets you really excited to add into that group and to find a spot where he can get in there and contribute to the team's success. But again, this week, hopefully, again, he makes it all the way. I don't take anything for granted, but this will be, an opportunity for him to catch up quickly, with everybody else. And but again, I'm just really proud of him for staying on schedule and all the work that he's put in. He's got to go through a lot and a lot of things to overcome. Amazing family and their support. To get him to this point, this week I'm excited to see him, get his first touch.